Hey, good morning, my friends. It is Friday, April 24th, 2026. I, of course, am Hammer, founder of Hammer Solutions, home of great products such as Originator Success, Grab and Go Social, and Rate Sensei, products to help you to get more loans from Google and social media in 2026. Be sure to check those out. If you're here this morning, say good morning. Remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, broadcasted to you on Facebook and on YouTube each day, talking about what's going on in the markets, what's going on with rates and pricing. And today, we're going to talk about what happened yesterday. There was a bit of an interesting um, move in bonds around 1 p.m. Eastern yesterday. We saw a big drop off, and we sent out an alert with our text alert service that reprices worse could be coming. And it's funny, there were less reprices worse than I expected. There were about 15 or 16 of them, or maybe 18 of them, I think. Generally, I mean, if it's a huge barn burner, you'll see 45 or 50. There's a lot of lenders out there. So anyway, we'll talk more about that in a minute, and I'll show you all about that. If you would like to join me live each day and not miss a moment of the show, make sure you're signed up for our text reminder. It goes out as I'm going live, giving you the links so you don't miss a moment. You can go ahead and sign up at hmmr.io/reminder, or you can use this cool QR code over here, and you can get signed up to get a text alert. We don't abuse your trust. We don't trigger lead you or sell you to anybody. So it's just for us to let you know we're going live. And if you would like our daily email lock advice, you can sign up at www.ratelockadvice.com or use this cool QR code over here. And it's different than what we do here on the live, but it does give you some content. You're free to use it any way that you can. If you want to share it with consumers, if you want to feed it into Chat GPT like Ron Siegel does, and use some of it to send out to some people, anything you want to do with it, you have my blessing, and you don't have to give me any credit. It's just my something I've been doing for years and years and years now, and then given to the community. If you would like to sign up for our text alerts to protect your pipeline on a day like yesterday when things did get worse, and you wanted to, you may be watching to see when things were, hopefully improving, and instead they went the other way and we locked some loans, you can sign up for those at ratetextalerts.com. They're a whopping $7, and you can't beat them, so you should join them. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the good stuff. Let's say hi to all the live folks here this morning. Good morning, my friends. I see Mallory Fotiadis and Amy Blauser probably. I don't see Zane's name there this morning. Happy Friday, Tim Klyla, Holly Johnson. Looks like a bunch of people are hopping on. I don't see Siegel on here yet, but I'm sure he'll be coming soon. So, all right, let's get this party started. We're going to start out with the technicals. I'll move over to that screen over here. So let's take a look at the technicals here to get started. Let's zoom in if we can here. We're going to zoom in on yesterday. All right. But before we get there, what are we at this morning? Oh, no. Mortgage bonds are currently down 3 basis points to start the day. They were up a few basis points. You could see right here, we're losing a little bit of ground as right around that 9:30 mark. So we were up a few basis points. We would have actually been up a little bit. We were up just a hair on the day, and now they're gone. It's been a pretty steady blah, right? Also, 10-year Treasury yield 4.34, which is higher than where we were at yesterday. We ended the day yesterday 4.32. Take a look at where we've been all week. So Friday we were at 4.25, right? Hold on, I'm gonna do the picture in picture. Where's my picture in picture? Does it not put me in? That puts me next to it. It's supposed to put me in the corner, but it doesn't put baby in the corner. What if I do this? Oh, that's kind of a weird one. I'm just seeing. I'll go next to it there like that for now. Yeah, because I like my big talking head, but I want y'all to see me. Anyway, all right. So taking a look here, Friday we were at 4.25, right? And then, Monday 4.26, then Tuesday 4.30, then Wednesday 4.30 again, Thursday 4.33. Now we're up to 4.34. So, we are seeing that 10-year creep higher. We're seeing mortgage bonds over here right? If we look closer at what's going on here, you can see the same thing. We capped up right here on Friday, and since then we've been losing ground. Very, very small movements, but we are losing ground. So yesterday, let's go deeper and talk about what happened yesterday. Look at this right here. Right around 1 p.m. Eastern time, there was a big drop off in bonds. And the reality is not much of anything actually happened. Not much of anything actually happened here to cause that. What we're seeing is everything is stagnant over in the Middle East, and pricing, bonds, stocks, everything is kind of, going off of what's going on in Iran. Now, stocks have rallied quite a bit. Remember, they really took it on the chin at the beginning of this conflict. Stocks have rallied. They're back up where they were. Some are even better. There's earning seasons and things like that. But bonds, we're seeing more of a reaction. And there was just some headlines yesterday about, things that could possibly lead to escalation. There was talk of, I think, a resignation on the negotiation team over in Iran. Whether that was true or not, there was talk of possible airstrikes or anti-air strikes, and just it, and then all of it was refuted, and markets just reacting to news. And Matt Graham, actually, I mean, I saw the same thing, but he pointed out, in his commentary yesterday, Matt Graham from MBS Live, he pointed out in his commentary that that these media sources, they're just trying to stay on top of it with clicks, and they're trying to generate content out of all this. And markets do react to that. They overreact to that. And that's why you still have to be careful about the volatility that we can have. The reality is we haven't seen much of anything change. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pop this over here. Rate sheets today, let's take a look and see. Rate sheets today are very likely to be similar to what we have seen. Look at this, look at how many times. Let me zoom in on this, and then we'll circle it, right? So let's really zoom in on this so you can see it clear. Take a look here. How many times do we see 6.32 on Mortgage News Daily's rate sheet, right? 6.32, 6.32, 6.32, 6.32. And then even when we move, you're down a couple basis points to improve. Then you're back to 6.3. Then you're up to 6.33, and then back to 6.32. Rates have been pretty consistent. If we take a look at OBI and Optimal Blue, you could see that let me actually we'll do this to 1 month. You can see, since the high point here was March 27th, we were at 6.49. So we'll call this 6.5, right? And right here at this high point, we were at 6.5. And since then, we've seen just kind of a very slow but very steady decrease to rates. We've seen rates improve for about 3 weeks. We've seen that in the media. And then just this week, we kind of lost a little bit of ground, right? So according to Locks, it's a little bit different than what Matt Graham says he's seeing over here on rate sheets, because he's got us ending last week at 6.29 and just barely worse at 6.32, probably where we would be today at this moment. But yeah, if you look here, Friday, we were at 6.19, 6.187, and now we're at 6.277. So just a little bit of worsening here too, but it's a little bit more as far as what they're showing with Locks. So rate sheets today going to be very much in that same realm, really not seeing any improvement. Reprice risk on the day is moderate. We could see more volatility, especially it's all going to depend on what we see on the headlines. If the headlines come up and we see things like, Trump talks up Iran blockade, then that's not good. But if we see Israel-Lebanon truce extended, that is good. That was extended for, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Israel and Lebanon set to extend a ceasefire for 3 weeks, according to President Donald Trump, who announced the deal in a social media post after meeting Israeli and Lebanese envoys at the White House. So that's hopefully there. The U.S. naval operation, the blockade, has caused many Iran-linked vessels to turn around rather than go through the Strait of Hormuz, potentially affecting Iran's oil, exports. Yesterday, one of those headlines that I talked about that were kind of like, flipping around, they were talking about how we've got the third aircraft carrier in the Strait of Hormuz. Everything was kind of leaning to the idea that we're not seeing the improvements that we need to see. We're not seeing the progress that we need to see in talks and in peace talks and in getting a deal done. And most importantly, getting the Strait of Hormuz open. That's really the main thing that everything focuses on. So right now, rates are kind of capped out for how high they'll go. We don't have to worry about going back up to, this 6.5 mark that we were at the end of March. Rates probably are, they're not really going to move much. We'll see what we saw this week, which is just death by 1,000 cuts, just bleeding a little bit of pricing, where your rebate pricing is getting a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse. We could see that trickle into next week as this drags on as well. But even then, there's going to be a limit to that. We're not going to see rates move as long as there's no military escalation, as long as things are calm and we're not seeing anything blowing up and Trump's not going on to Truth Social and saying that he's going to blow Iran to smithereens, then rates really don't have much room to move higher. However, we're not going to see rates move lower until the Strait of Hormuz is open. The Strait of Hormuz was open for 24 hours last week. We saw that on Friday. Friday had, of course, great pricing. We had a strong reaction in bonds to the news that the Strait of Hormuz was open, that Iran was going to allow traffic through. However, on Saturday, they slammed the door on that and went back on it all, and everything went back to where it was. Now, we've got two parties because we've got the U.S., which why the hell are we all the way over there? That, like you step back, you have to hope that this truly is about, nukes and protecting us from nukes from them. I really hope it is, because otherwise, why are we over there? We've got, we're kind of making asses of ourselves at this point. It's similar to how Russia couldn't really take out Ukraine, and you saw just how weak it really was. We look kind of similar, it doesn't matter how many times Trump jumps up and down on his podium and says we won and we were kicking their ass and we were, blowing things to smithereens. The reality is that we can't get this done. And Iran has been able to close the Strait of Hormuz, which is international waters, which is supposed to be open. They don't control it, but yet they've been able to control it, and we couldn't stop them from controlling it. So our answer is that we're going to go there and control it too. So now it's a game of one-upsmanship, and basically each side trying to create more pain for the other side. The U.S. is saying that if we can block Iran from getting exported oil, then that's going to cut off their money flow, and then they're going to have to give in because you need money coming in, right? And the rest of the world experiencing something similar, where they need the oil to come out of there, and Iran is able to get rid of that. What I have noticed, and again, this just shows why I'm a redneck in the Smoky Mountains. Why have we not tried to stop Iran from being able to control the Strait of Hormuz? Wouldn't that make more sense? And I guess to some extent we have with minesweepers and trying to, but they basically, I guess they sabotaged the water. But if we're such a mighty country with such amazing technology, you'd think that we would be able to stop them from stopping traffic. And we couldn't. So, and I think the rest of the world sees that. And I know that Iran certainly sees that. So where I'm going with all this is, this thing could continue to drag out for the next few weeks. So anything that's closing near term, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say anything closing in the next 15 days. I'm at a lock stance for now. I would probably lock. I would lock anything that's closing in the next 15 days. And I'll tell you why. This week, we've seen a small movement worse in pricing, right? Next week, we've got the Fed meeting. And the Fed meeting last time around was hawkish. It'll take the focus away from Iran a little bit again, but it was hawkish last week or last month, 6 weeks ago, and we did see rates worsen a little bit when Powell talked at his press conference, and I think that could happen again because we're in a very similar situation. We have not seen a resolution with Iran. We have not seen anything that would remove the inflationary pressure, and the last few weeks, jobless claims, they're holding steady, and the labor data came in stronger than expected. So there's really not anything that points to the Fed meeting helping next week. We're kind of suffering from death by 1,000 paper cuts. So, the only thing that's going to really give us a boost is if that Strait of Hormuz does open up and stays open. And that's a lot to gamble on. So for me, I would probably lock anything closing the next couple of weeks because it just doesn't seem like we have a lot in our favor to float into. And there's just too much risk. Now, anything that's closing later in May, the second half of May or beyond, for that stuff, I would go ahead and float. And when I say cautiously float, cautiously just means if you've got anything that's risk averse and they're happy with the rate, it's not a bad idea to lock right now. We're only going to see improvement when the Strait of Hormuz is open, and we're not going to see huge improvement when that does happen. You're not going to see rates drop back down into the fives. They're not going to drop a quarter point, a 3/8 of a point. We're going to see better pricing. We're going to see some recovery in pricing, maybe enough to pick up an eighth in rate. But otherwise, until we see a significant movement and oil, that'll be there. Now, farther out, people are getting fatigued. There's energy. It saps the economy when gas is $4 and $5 a gallon, and the U.S. is better off than a lot of the rest of the world. But still, this is not where we've been. We've grown used to gas that's a couple of dollars cheaper. It's about double for many of us than where it was, and if not at least 2/3 higher. So it's significantly higher. And what's going to happen is it's going to start to weigh on the rest of the economy. It's going to weigh on the airlines and travel and the summer stuff and hospitality and hotels and restaurants. And, you're going to see it showing up everywhere. And if we do see some economic weakness, that's going to help rates improve later in the year. So there'll be more talk of actual Fed cuts. We'll figure if Warsh does get in, he'll probably have some reason to be able to point to try to influence the rest of the committee to go ahead and see some rate cuts. So we'll see where all that stands. But for now, that's my advice. Let's go ahead and see what you guys have to say today, and we'll answer any questions. Good morning. What's up, Nathan? Live like Bruce Buffer. I don't know who Bruce Buffer is. That's it. No comments, no questions. Good morning. I'm tired of this, Grandpa. Where is that? I have to see. Here it is. Good morning, Amber. Yeah, that's about it. We're just kind of tired of this. And markets are tired of it too. They're just not, but unless something changes, we're going to see more of the same. Good morning. Happy Friday. Jessica Wells, happy belated birthday and good morning. So great to see you. But any questions? What do you guys think? Did you find today helpful? Let me know in the comments if you did. Let me know what you guys are doing this Friday. Tomorrow, I'm just doing the usual, I'm still taking it easy. Tomorrow, we got Sam's Club. Maybe watch a movie. I haven't been to a movie theater forever, but my wife and I might go to a movie. I'll kick my leg up on the recliner in the fancy movie theater, and maybe we'll kick back and watch a movie. Start getting some things ready for some honey-do list. I'm moving around a little bit smoother, but I'm still not up to full speed yet for doing things. But I'm moving and hobbling along here. So 3 weeks post recovery on my knee replacement, doing well. Let me know what you guys are doing this weekend in the comments, and otherwise have a great weekend. Remember, we could see some activity over the weekend that could affect where we open up on Monday. So keep that in mind. But even this last week, when we went from Friday, the Strait of Hormuz was open, everything was great, to Monday, it was closed again. We didn't see that strong of a reaction to that. So I'm not really worried about waking up on Monday to a barn burner or a face melter or whatever we want to call it. I think we're okay, but we could see rates continue to just, pricing's going to creep a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse. We could be in for some more of that. We'll get some days that are better than others, but we're going to keep floating through this as this all drags on. And that's really where we're at. I mean, until we see a change to that. And then, but next week, we'll talk more about the Fed meeting that is happening. And then after that, we'll have jobs data the following week. So we will start to have some other things to kind of talk about and drive as well. So, you're doing your birthday party tomorrow. So cool. And just chilling today. Cool. Good for y'all. So, all right, my friends. Yeah, that's what we're planning on seeing, Amber, is Hail Mary. My daughter liked it too. Everybody's really loving it. So that's good. That's good. I have to admit, I was like, but everyone thought it was great. So that's awesome. And we'll see. So, all right, my friends, I will see you on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.